So in the notebooks, PB writes, with regard to the yogis and fakirs, I found that religious fanatics, self-deluded gurus, and foolish sentimentalists could be discovered in plenty, but genuine sages and fakirs possessed of demonstrable occult powers were rare enough to make one despair sometimes of ever locating them. However, the tides of my quest turned soon after a strange ring was given me by the man whom I call in my book the anchorite of the Adyar River. Thereafter, I experienced no difficulty in meeting the objects of my quest. So the ring is magic. And we'll see in our next episode, then he meets the Shankaracharya, who PB said was one of the most enlightened people on the planet. And then because of the Shankaracharya, he meets Ramana. So all of a sudden, doors are open to PB, whether it's because of the ring or not. But PB says, it's no coincidence. After the guy gave me this ring, what he said became true. So
the conclusions, correct, about he concluded that the yoga was so important, but wasn't really
for the West.
Correct.
So PB now finally meets a real yogi. He learns about yoga. He's impressed with all this. He said, I've discovered something that science will have to accept. But he decides that yoga body control isn't for us. And he says, I am not propagating yoga or any other Eastern ism or cult, but I'm trying to call attention to a few worthwhile ideas which can be picked up from the East. So we can remember Mayor Baba wanted PB to propagate his teachings, his group, his isms. And PB saying, I'm not here to do that. Neither am I of those who praise the so-called spirituality of the East in order to deride Western materialism. All such comparisons are foolish and incorrect. Sacredness is in ourselves, not in any spot on this planet. Nevertheless, the fact remains that Asia and Africa, on account of their age and their more leisurely existence, have had time to discover some profound secrets, both of a spiritual and material nature, which seem to me to have some value for us. These secrets are now to be traced out with the greatest difficulty because time has narrowed their ownership to a reclusive few. Yet they do exist and may be found. And that's what PB did. He found them and he shared them with us. So he's saying, I'm not asking you to follow Indian guru or follow Indian teachings, and I'm not rejecting Western spirituality. I believe both are important, but we have a lot to learn from the East.
Yeah, but he was so clear that this kind of yoga or any kind of yoga is a mean, like
a means to an
end, but isn't really the goal, because if you quiet your mind, you align your body, you quiet the senses, but these don't guarantee that you could have self-realization. Self-realization is a mean to the end,
it's a means to
but
an end.
No really guarantee your, end. I say your last realization, correct?
When he started saying this, it became very controversial because PB's first books really concentrate on yoga-related practices and things that he learned from Ramana. And then he came to this realization of what Brown said, and he wrote that book, The Hidden Teaching Beyond Yoga.
Yeah.
And in the first or second chapter, he says yoga is a step, but not a stop.
Yeah.
And people got really upset with him. It was very controversial because people thought he's rejecting yoga. He's telling us that we shouldn't do it, that it's wrong. He's not saying that. He's saying what Brian said. It's a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
But people were so upset that he had to write an addendum to the Heaton teaching. And remember, in those days, they didn't have internet, right? They didn't have but they had telephone, but they didn't have all these other means of communication. So PB published this little pamphlet that was sent to all the bookstores. So all the people who got the hidden teaching could read it. And he called it Some Misconceptions Cleared Up.
Yeah.
But PB was actually attacked for saying that there was something beyond yoga.
Yeah.
So let's read one last quote.
It is why he met so many yogis, so advanced yogis doing so many things in the body, and as you said, like stay alive under the earth, all these things,
Stop your
but
heart.
Stop the heart.
Put knives in yourself.
Yeah, but this is important for who are seeing us to understand. Even if that is great, this isn't really self-realization, right?
Means to an end,
Yeah.
like you said. Or yoga is a step, not a step. He's really giving us a map.
Mm-hmm.
So in the notebooks, he says, it would be a grave mistake to believe that the following of ascetic regimes and the stilling of wandering thoughts causes the higher consciousness to supervene. What they really do is to permit it to supervene. So it doesn't give you enlightenment, but it permits you to create the conditions for getting enlightenment. Desires and distractions are hindrances to its attainment, and they merely remove the hindrances. But of course, the removal of the hindrances is really important, which is why we have the long path, because we have very intense desires or we have very intense attachments, then we won't find what is within. This makes possible the recognition of what we really are beneath them. However, if we do nothing more than this, which is called yoga, we get only an inferior attainment, often only a temporary one. For unless we also engage in the rooting out of the ego, which is called philosophy, we do not get the final and superior transcendental state. So Grant said before that PB was very courageous. He was also intellectually courageous because he was saying things that he knew would upset people. Anyone who's a follower of yoga would get very upset with PB saying it is an inferior attainment.
And also that has something beyond yoga. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Do you think what we could say that he called philosophy?
What PB calls philosophy is
beyond yoga.
Is beyond yoga, but includes yoga.
Include yoga.
He calls
he never rejects yoga, but he said has something
beyond yoga. He calls it philosophical.
Yoga by itself is
not enough, but it's not wrong to do it.
Yeah.
He also says in this book that you really need good guidance and teachers because some of these postures could be bad for you. And we know nowadays there's many people who really are hurt physically by doing these more extreme yoga postures.
Even the yoga Brama, when he was younger, he also hurt himself.
Right, if you read the book.
And he told the people, if you read the Secret India, you are going to see all story.
So we're only skimming over a lot of stuff, but Yogi Brama himself caused himself serious health problems by doing too much too
respiratory.
Soon.
It is why people really recommend to don't do any respiratory exercise,
extreme
posture,
breathing,
extreme things without a guided or somebody really specialized being who has enough experience to guide you.
And in the PB's early books, Secret India, The Secret Path, Quest of the Overself, he adapts these Indian practices, such as breathing practices, in a way that he feels are suitable for us. So it's not that we can't do them, as always with PB, they need to be adapted. So that's the end of our presentation on Yogi Brahma, which has 2 chapters in Search and Secret India. Next, we will see he meets someone called the Sage of South India, who's called Shankaracharya, who PB was very influenced by and who he kept in touch with the rest of his life. But for now, we'll conclude this.
Also, the sage that never speaks. We are
Yes.
going to speak with you about
The
that.
sage who never speaks.
The next episode.
That's who he meets before he meets Shankara, but it's another example possibly of Brahma's ring opening doors for him, because this sage who never speaks is a really very advanced yogi who we'll learn about next. So we hope you'll be interested enough to continue and watch the next episode.
Yes, but remember, you don't need the ring. You already have the blessing.
Okay, thank you.
See you.